Bases dropped on another round of Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here, 9:05. I actually made it before 9:06. All right, show of hands. How many of you, and legitimately, how many of you stayed up late last night to watch the match or listen to Mike and Jason on 92.9 The Game? Show of hands. How many of you are really fighting it this morning when it comes to being awake? That's what I figured. All of you. And if you're saying that you're not, you're fibbing, unless you really can get away on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep. So, yeah, just to give you an example. All right, so this is not a sponsored element yet. This is not a sponsored element yet. So this is what I'm bringing with me this morning. For those of you watching live on Twitch, it is the extra large from our friends at Quick Trip, and it is quite filled with Mountain Dew. So I brought in the heavy artillery this morning because we were all up. Let me see here. So if it was a 10:39 start, thanks to our friends at Apple TV. Let's see. So 10:39 would be 12:29. I wish, Sean, that I had friends within large corporations. I just have large investments in multiple corporations. So that's how this is this morning. But the bottom line in all of this, it was a late night. It was stressful. It was stomach churning. And it ended up with a goalless draw against LAFC. And Bam, I will admit, I will wholeheartedly admit that I did not anticipate the lineup that was trotted out. I did not anticipate that lineup at all. Did not anticipate it. It was more first choice than I thought, considering what is coming down the road for LAFC. It is literally a home-and-home series against Houston Dynamo coming up in short order. And I legitimately figured that it was going to be something that was more 50-50 halvesies, kind of, however you wanted to describe it. So last night, Atlanta went first choice, no real shock. So here's the lineup that was brought out by LAFC. McCarthy in net, Palacios, Maldonado, Murillo, Hollingshead. Midfield, Duenas, Ilie, Sifu. Your forwards, Denny Bouanga, Bogusz, and Opoku. That was their lineup, and that's about that's fairly first choice. Bam, back me up on this. That's pretty first choice. You would end up with player stats. Let me get player stats in here, and not necessarily just team stats. I want to get the player breakdown as to who did what. Steve Buke came in and played 30 minutes. No real surprise. Bogusz played, so that was the 60-30 split was Bogusz and Steve Buke. Denny Bouanga went back-to-back, which to me was a surprise. Played full 90 minutes. Sifu went 88. Crisostomo went for 2, and he probably could have picked up at least 2 yellows in the 2 minutes that he was around. Duenas played a full 90. Hollingshead played a full 90. Maldonado, Murillo, full 90. Opoku went 60. Carlos Vela came in for the final 30 minutes. Nothing like having that in your bullpen. And then Palacios and Ilie played 90 minutes as well, along with McCarthy. So it will now officially be interesting that I want to see what the lineup is going to be for LAFC in the first match of the home and home this weekend as they take on Houston Dynamo. I legitimately thought that with this match being against an Eastern Conference opponent, that this would have been the one where you would have had the rotation. And then sitting there and you're like, yeah, okay, we got a home and home coming up in conference. I get that. and it's coming up on Saturday night, and it's on the road against Houston. So that is where I thought it was going to be switched. That's legitimately thought that's where I thought it was going to be switched. But first choice for LAFC coming out of the blocks. And let's get into the stats and the numbers before we get into all the other stuff. But the biggest thing, obviously, the goalless draw. We'll get into Brad's performance, which was otherworldly. And I think that the reports of Brad Guzan's early demise are exaggerated. I think that's how the quote goes. I want to get deeper numbers than the ones that are with MLS soccer. So let me go to SofaScore because there were some numbers that kind of struck me when it came to what we saw out of LAFC last night. All right, so there's your full time. All right, so we need stats. Stats are what we're staring at. This is what we're chasing. So, okay. All right, so 50-50 by the time it was done when it came to possession. And early on, it almost seemed like LAFC was trying to do a bit of a rope-a-dope. First half, it looked like they were literally trying to Red Bull their way through this thing. Get through I think I figured it out. In the first 45, what you want to do is just get your way through it. You want to sit there and it's like, all right, here's the first 45 minutes. We'll navigate it. We'll counterpunch here a little bit. We'll rope-a-dope. We'll kind of get our way through it. And then in the second 45, we'll turn the engine over, and then we'll zoom forward. And I think that's what happened. At least that's what I was looking at. Get through the first 45, see where you are, then turn the engine over, and then, we'll do our thing. And Atlanta United was defending like nobody's business in the second 45 minutes because that 2-1 margin in possession in the first 45 minutes turned into 60-40 LAFC in the second half. Total shots, 22-4. LAFC is a very, very good defensive team. Very, very good defensive team. 8 shots on target for LAFC, none for Atlanta United. 12 shots off target. 12 shots off target for LAFC. 3 for Atlanta United, 2 blocks, and 1 for Atlanta United. 8 corners to 2. Once again, when you have all the shooting stats based where they are, not a surprise. 3 offsides to 2. 19 fouls to 11, so it was right at the number for Joe Dickerson. Dickerson's averaged 29 foul calls this season. He had 30. 8 yellows in the match, 5 for Atlanta United. Frankly, there should have been more. For LAFC, there were 3. But once again, we know the history of Joe Dickerson. We know the history of Joe Dickerson and how he navigates matches. 3 big chances, all 3 of them missed for LAFC. 1 hit the woodwork. Now, this is the stat that sticks with me. Shots inside the box and outside the box. First half, shots inside the box for LAFC, 2. 2 shots inside the box in the first 45 minutes. 7 outside the box, which to me means Atlanta United was defending well. And as they were defending well, LAFC became impatient and wanted to just be frustrated and fire off a shot and see what would happen. 7 outside the box in the first half. Brad had 5 saves in the first half. Second half, shots inside the box as business picked up offensively for LAFC. 8 shots inside the box, 5 outside the box. 3 saves for Brad in the second half. check my numbers here real quick. 81%, both teams actually 81% passing accuracy in a game in the second half that had bits of chaos attached to it. 35 long balls for Atlanta United, 19 for LAFC. Each team had 3 successful crosses. LAFC actually lost possession more than Atlanta United did in that match. I think that speaks to the defense. Atlanta United won more of the duels. It was of 113, 6 of 11, 50. It was like 55-45 percentage-wise. 23 tackles for Atlanta United last night. 34 clearances. 34 clearances for Atlanta United in the match last night. And I know we talk a lot about numbers and such. Franco Ibarra, welcome back. 90 minutes, 78 touches for Franco Ibarra. 45 of 49 passing, 92%. 3 of 4 on his long balls. 2 for 2 on the dribbles. Now, here's some numbers on Franco Ibarra. 11 of 13 winning on the ground duels. He won 1 of 3 in the air. So total duels, 12 of 16 last night for Franco Ibarra. And that's why you have this kind of sandpaper in that midfield to stand up to attacks like what we saw from LAFC in their barn last night. 11 of 13 duels won by Franco Ibarra on the ground last night. Fouled 3 times, 4 clearances, 1 pick, 6 tackles for Franco Ibarra last night. So that's the kind of night that he had. The back line, according to our friends at SofaScore. Andrew Gutman, a 7-2. Juanjo Purata with a yellow card, a 7. Miles Robinson, a 7-5. Brooks Lennon, a 7-2. So let's get into Miles' numbers here. Full 90 minutes, 7 clearances, 1 interception, 4 tackles. Won every ground duel that he faced, 6 for 6. Won every duel that he faced, period, 7 for 7 last night. Fouled twice, 83 touches, 82% accuracy on 66 passes. Had 4 long balls completed and a blocked shot. Andrew Gutman, 90 minutes, 3 clearances, a block, a pick, a tackle. 6 of 11 on the ground duels, 1 for 2 in the air, so 7 of 13 overall. Fouled twice. 69 touches, 25 of 33 passing at 76%. Had 1 key pass, 2 crosses, 3 long balls, 3 of 4 on the dribble. That's what you were getting last night from Atlanta United along the back line. If there's another guy that you want to stare at statistically, we can. But those are just the 2 highest ranked players defensively, outside of Brad Gazan. Brad, 8 saves, 4 from inside the box, 51 touches, 30 of 39 passing, 77%. 17 of 26 on long balls, so that's 65%. 3 clearances. But I think you look at Brad, and like I said, I think that we look at what we saw from Brad last night, and that's why you've got 150 starts, 50 clean sheets, and it was MLS After Dark. Absolutely it was. I don't know the numbers. Yeah, I think Opta gave him 9. SofaScore gave him 8. So we can say 8.5 and we'll all be happy. So Brad did his best Tim Howard versus Belgium impression. It'll be interesting to see, and Bam, you can fill in the holes on this as well if you wish. Will Carlos Vela take another penalty attempt for LAFC? Or is it going to be somebody else if he's in the match? I can't repeat what Bam said. Bam said something with a colorful metaphor on the Twitch pitch, but basically he said he hoped not. So Carlos Vela, and like I said, I was listening. I was not watching because I wanted to listen to Mike and Jason. And apparently they were outside the press box at BMO last night, so they got a little bit more of the ambient energy than some other folks may, because I think that it's TV, local radio, Spanish radio, and then you work your way out that way. So I don't think they had enough suites, and so I think they had them outside the press box. But it looked like Brad had it pegged, and then when you go to VAR and you end up with the redo, if you're Carlos Vela, that first miss is in the back of your head. That save is in the back of your head as you approach for the second one. And the second attempt by Carlos Vela ended up in Manhattan Beach. I don't know if Carlos Vela should take, and like I said, I know that he's the guy. Bam says that Vela's redo just ended up going over his house. That's a lot of travel. It's a lot of travel time. It's a question, I think, going forward for the remainder of the season. It's a question going forward for LAFC. Saved PK, redo, launched over the crossbar. Brad with 8.5 saves. We'll say 8.5. Like I said, I think Opta had 9. Common number was 8. So you're staring at all of this. Questions for LAFC going forward. So you look at what happened last night. Mike did the math, and it's on his Twitter feed. This is the third highest point total that Atlanta United has had at the halfway point of the season in club history. With everything that we've been talking about, working our way through this particular point to this particular point of the season, third highest point total, short of MLS's back and truncated seasons and things like that. So, third highest point total. Here we go with the Vela observations. Vela's redo has formed a two-body system, not unlike the Sons of Tatooine with Michael Bradley's penalty. So I think that if, Bam, I think as an LAFC fan, I think you have questions because I think the template is out. But at the same time, I also think, and this is a subject that we have brought up a lot, that you need to have individuals in the center, meaning center ref, that understand the gravity of where they are and understand the gravity of the match. So if you're Atlanta United, you go in, you went into that environment, mainly first choice. Second half, you had to hang on because, like I said, they turned the switch on the engine. And we'll see what happens with LAFC. And I will, and this is something that I'm going to keep an eye on now going forward. I want to know, in matches of great import in this league, who are the center refs that are assigned? Like I said, I'm just going to keep that as something in the back of my head. So, you look at the defensive effort from last night. You look at what Brad did last night. Take that short rest, turn around, and I want to see what it looks like for Atlanta United going up against DC at home. Because you look at the minutes that were put in there by Atlanta United, it will be very, very interesting to look at the minutes that were put in last night and have to turn around to a Wednesday night match against DC United. For Atlanta United, here's the rundown. Thiago played 90, no surprise. Miguel Berry came in for 15, was paired with Giakoumakis, who had 75 on the board. Araujo played 80-plus. Derek Etienne almost played 60. Johnny Fortune came in once again, gave you quality minutes in the midfield, gave you 15. He had the one chance late as well. Gutman gave you a full 90. Ibarra gave you a full 90. Brooks, Miles, full 90. Hosechu was the other half of the equation with a Johnny Fortune when you needed to shore things up defensively. Hosechu got the start, gave you 75. A Johnny Fortune came in, gave you the final 15. Purata gives you 90. Tyler Wolf came in, gave you 30. Caleb Wiley gave you 10. So that was the pairing. Araujo, Wiley, then you rearrange some things. So it will be interesting to see with these numbers, do we see Ronald Hernandez on Saturday? Caleb probably starts. Do we see Tyler Wolf start? Or does Derek Etienne continue to start? How many minutes, once again, do you give Yorgos Giakoumakis? How does Amar Sejdic fit into this? Sejdic probably gets to start in the midfield on Saturday night, now that he's healthy and he's done with the calf injury that had him out a month. So the rotation will be interesting. Who's good for another 90 and who gets rotated in and out. So obviously we'll keep an eye on that too. So how many of you, now that we've discussed this here in the opening half hour, and I guess technically it's the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Once again, you go to kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I apologize if the QR code from our friends at Lemonize Service gets in the way of your QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Use them both. But once again, I'm going to take stock now that we have everybody in this morning. Once again, how many of you stayed up for the match? How many of you read the Cliff's Notes? And how many of you are here this morning with the rather large cup of caffeine to work your way through the show this morning? Show of hands. Once again, show of hands. That's what we're laying out with this morning. A lot of folks that stayed up very, very late, having to turn around very, very quickly to talk about stuff. And this isn't obviously the only thing we're going to talk about today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Niko Moreno's coming in at 10:30, and it'll be Thursdays with Niko with his first cup of coffee, and he will give the Pacific perspective on everything going on in and around the world of soccer. We've got more on the Messi character, because last time I've heard the deal's not done, but Inter Miami was more than confident to put the very, very shiny social media picture post up with the half lighting of the jersey of the 10. And it appears Tata Martino is in the driver's seat when it comes to being the new head coach down at Inter Miami. So there's that. We have a lot of stuff to get into with that. We've got a lot of news of the day. Alexis has now apparently inked a deal with Liverpool. So Brighton is going to have some money that they can find, and we'll see about the challenge of reinvesting by Roberto De Zerbi. But there's plenty to talk about. And what I will do is run through the Twitch pitch and run through some of the highlights. But, yeah, once again, show of hands, everybody. How many of you are still fighting it this morning after a very late night in MLS After Dark? Absolute craziness where Atlanta United, goalless draw with LAFC, Brad Gazan. 8.5 saves. We'll just call it that because, like I said, some are saying 9, some are saying 8. We'll say 8.5 just to kind of split the difference. And then Will had mentioned that there were another 3 that didn't necessarily count. Saved pen, all those kinds of things. So plenty to talk about. Lay it on me. And like I said, we got Niko coming in at 10:30 to discuss stuff. We also have coming up in short order, just just to give you a programming note. We are catching up with a lot of our high school friends and a lot of the programs from the state of Georgia that won championships this past season. And so it's our goal at Soccer's in Session to catch up with all the state champs and then also include some of the more interesting stories and storylines that we've come across the state. And so we've caught up with our friends in Richmond Hill. We've caught up with our friends at Dalton. We've caught up with our friends at Johnson Gainesville. And we're catching up with our friends at Lincoln County today. And so those will get posted on the YouTube channel and on the app. So we have both video and audio when it comes to these programs. And we're going to start doing these interviews and rolling them out so you can get caught up on the soccer season from the high school side of things. So Soccer's in Session does not rest. So we'll have some great video content out over the weekend, audio content as well on the app, and a story that we're chasing today that'll be out in short order. Don't know if you guys had the chance to hear about this one, but there is a keeper down at Tift County, down in Tifton at Tift High, and he has the chance to go play in Spain. And so we're going to catch up with Michael Taylor and his coach and tell you the story about a football player who converted into a football player and basically said, I want to play goalie. Just wandered into practice one day and said, I want to be your goalie. And so he has turned into a force in South Georgia and has the chance to go play in Spain to hopefully further his aspirations. And so we're going to catch up with Mike Taylor and his coach and down at Tift, and that story will be out on the network as well. So there'll be a lot of high school content coming through with Soccer's in Session, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente, thrive. But we'll have a lot of high school content coming up as well over the next coming weeks, and there'll be a lot of that to talk about too. So fire away, whatever's on your mind, let me know. Declan Rice apparently admitted to the club chair at West Ham that he's leaving, and the chair said we promised him he could go. So there's that, and so there's a lot of news this morning, and we will roll through it as best we can. Like I said, Niko's coming up in an hour, and we'll go through all of the news and all the messy stuff Now that we're on the messy stuff, all right. Well, we're kind of all over the place. I know that surprises all of you. But I wanted to check and see what the current prices are for things in Major League Soccer. And this is from our friends at the Master of Tickets. And September 16th, just to give you an example, with the matchup coming up with Inter Miami and Atlanta, right now, Full Barn is open. Resale market for this matchup on September 16th. Get-in price on the secondary market in the 300s, $125. That's get-in price. Get-in price right there. You got now, and I'm going to take a bit of a tour here. So get-in price in the 300s at Mercedes-Benz is $125. Jared, have you recovered from last night?
I'm so tired. My daughter woke up at like 3 a.m. too. I'm so tired. I can't see straight. That was such a stupid game.
Yeah, it was.
It got stupider as the game went on too. It went from being like damn, Atlanta's getting outplayed here. Which, hey, LA started more starters than I thought they would.
Exactly. Yes.
They still rotated some guys, and those rotated guys put in good performances. But they started more guys than I thought they would. But that went from being like, hey, man, Atlanta kind of showed something early, I thought, when they were trying to play through it, to and they created a couple opportunities playing through the pressure the first like 20 minutes or so, and then it just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
It just became after like the 50th minute, like, oh, we're getting drunk tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting some Five Stripes After Dark drunkenness.
That is true.
All of the drunkenness.
That is true. Apparently, Josh Winder is now heading to Benfica. Sent a message. Grateful for everything Lou City's done for me. Excited to start my journey in Europe with Benfica. Said visiting in January. Thought the facilities were amazing. So that's official. Joshua Winder from Lou City heading to Benfica. But the points that I had made, and everybody has been commenting on it in the first half hour on the Twitch pitch, and I started to get into the Messi ticket prices at the Benz as an example, since Messi news is still out there, and we need to update folks on that. But to me, it seemed like the first 45 minutes for LAFC, they were just kind of there. It's like, all right, let's see what we can do. There was a point where Atlanta United had possession 2-1, and it seemed very rope-a-dope-ish from LAFC. It's like, all right, let's
they did, but LA did a good job of forcing Atlanta into possession in undangerous areas. Now, like I said, first 20 minutes or so, Atlanta was finding those gaps. Like Atlanta LA wanted to press. And in the midst of all that pressure, when they would collapse the pressure, Atlanta was on their marks. To go stage terms on it. Like their blocking was correct. Because they were able to quickly play out of it. And more than once, they found space on the outside. The problem was nobody in the attack had a clue what they were doing last night consistently.
Yeah.
God bless Yorgos Yakimakis, who wins box outs at probably like the closest thing I can think of when it comes to him boxing guys out is it's kind of like 2016 Andre Drummond when he was with Detroit, where like if the ball comes off the rim, you might as well start running the other way because he's not going to let you have it. But that being said, it was eventually LA just kind of forced them into possession in the middle third, where Atlanta was hesitant trying to break into the final third, and they weren't as dangerous. And then, man, the last 10 minutes of the first half, LAFC got a series of set pieces and then ratcheted the absolute hell up on the pressure. So, it wasn't like one-way traffic in the entire first half like it was in the second half. But I thought they did a good job of forcing Atlanta into, especially as the half went on, into less dangerous possession.
Right. And, I went through the numbers for folks like Miles and Franco Ibarra last night defensively. And Franco Ibarra, we always mention that you've got to have a little bit of sandpaper in your roster and in your starting 11. Franco Ibarra proved once again that, A, he is maturing as a professional and becoming more comfortable in who he is. But when he is in there in that midfield for Atlanta, he is starting to boss things around defensively, and it's almost to the point to where it's like you're running into another kind of a brick wall in the midfield when you're dealing with Franco Ibarra these days.
Yeah, like Ibarra's done everything you could ask him to do,
Yeah. And, Miles had a big night at the back, and, you had Andrew Gutman coming in. And the other question that I posed was, with all of the minutes that we saw from all of these guys in this match against LA, what's it going to look like with DC on the weekend?
I mean, you ran yourself hard last night, and I think a lot of the idea for this was you're catching LAFC at a really good time in their structure because they're coming off of the Champions League or the CONCACAF Champions League game, which I guess isn't the CONCACAF Champions League anymore because we don't believe in fun things.
Right. We believe in rebranding.
But they put out more starters than I really expected them to.
Exactly. I did too. I thought it was going to be more rotated considering they've got this home and home coming up with Houston.
Yeah, they were fine. And they played real, especially in the second half. I was really I was disappointed that Atlanta wasn't able to punish them more in the second half because I thought that's where you might find the difference with tired legs from LAFC. Now, if you're Atlanta, you're on short rest. You still have to fly back east.
Yep.
Because look, man, those West Coast flights are no joke. It's the thing with MLS. It's the thing with the unbalanced schedule. It would be wonderful if you could play in MLS where it would be wonderful if you could play like a balanced schedule where everything is even, but that doesn't exist right now.
Right.
Because it'd be great if someone would say, hey, you get to go play in Minnesota, RSL, and Kansas City this year. Cool, that's not bad at all. Like that's not those are trips. They ain't like, Seattle, Portland, LA kind of trips. You know what I mean? Vancouver kind of trips. But you don't have that, and you gotta try and find something out of games like that. Atlanta found something in that game through basically Brad Guzan's just sheer will. And I hope that they can. One of the things I hope is that they will use what they did as like a springboard defensively.
Yeah.
Because the offense didn't click last night. It's the first time they were the last team that had been shut out. They were the last team to get shut out this year. Everyone else has been shut out at least once. That was Atlanta's first time being shut out. They still, for all of the offensive angst about everything, they still lead the league in goals scored. Like that part will be fine. If last night means that the defense kind of galvanizes a bit, then it will have been worth it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Is you gotta get ready because you have to play against a DC team that is going to come in and they're going to be looking to loosen Benteke on you. And we talked about this. We've talked about this on Tuesdays. That like DC is kind of making it work right now with a couple younger guys, but mostly an older roster. So how are you going to make this work long term if you're DC? But you worry about that later. Right now, Wayne Rooney's just fixing what was a mess. Yeah. I want to see how they deal with it. I want to see how Atlanta deals with it because I would like to think that you have galvanized this defense some.
Yeah,
that would be awesome if that's what they've done.
You point to the monitor and you sit there with your palms extended skyward, and you sit there and you go, "See, look what you did in LA, in that environment. Look what you did for 90 minutes on Wednesday night against one of the top teams in the Western Conference and one of the top teams in Major League Soccer." So. Yeah, you would hope that is the example for the guys to sit there and it's like, okay, look, you've been able to do it in this environment. So,
aside from Gutman losing his absolute mind in the last, and then almost kicking the ball off of an attacker into his own goal and getting bailed out by Guzan.
Yeah, the kick save, yeah.
Which just pissed me the hell off, man. And I understand you're trying to get it out of there, but it's got to be cleaner than that. Yeah, I don't expect Guz to have games like that every week.
Right.
But you got better performances from Miles, who put Bouanga in his pocket. You got better performances aside from a super soft penalty. From Juanjo Peralta. You need those. You need those performances. I need y'all to galvanize around those performances, and to be better. because Goose is going to pull that out of his pocket every week, and you are still going to need the guys defensively to do that kind of work. Like those things are going to still be needed.
Let's see, Sam Williamson. We're kind of crossing the topics this morning. Sam Williamson goes, with Messi here now, do you think Almada will want to stay, or is his eye still to leave this summer?
Oh no, it's cool that Messi's coming here. They might get to share the field, might get to hang out Leagues Cup time, but Messi's look, Messi coming here is awesome, but Thiago Almada's life is ahead of him in Europe.
Yep.
For however many millions of dollars, Thiago Almada's future is there, and I'd love for him to stay. Thiago Almada's an amazing player. Thiago Almada is going to go to Europe, and he's going to make a lot of money.
Yep.
And you roll with that.
Yep. Also, as I'm drifting in and out of news, apparently our friends in Switzerland and Budweiser's parent company are friends again. The sponsorship deal covers the 2023 Women's World Cup, but also, according to Andrew Dawson in the New York Times, crucially, if you're in Bev, the 2026 World Cup in the United States, the home of Budweiser. So Budweiser and the four-lettered Swiss soccer organization, peace in our time. Congratulations. Was getting into the ticket prices for. Have you and Nick had the discussion yet about trying to corner the market when it comes to tickets for the probable investment of Lionel Messi in Inter Miami? They say they're close. Nothing is complete, according to Messi yesterday, but they say that they're close and they're working on it. So are you and Nick still trying to corner the market at DRVP&K with tickets?
I mean, we're not cornering the market DRVP&K. We're going to sell our season tickets that we have for Atlanta. That's a different animal. And we're just going to fund a small aerospace company in the process. Will, you can come work for us. We will be benevolent dictators.
Yes, benevolent dictators. Get-in price at Mercedes-Benz, by the way, now on the secondary market for September 16th in the 300s. Get-in price is $125. You have, you've got $150. You've got $247 in the 300s. In the 200s, you're looking at north of $300 and $400. $800 for club tickets on the 200 level. In the 100s, you've got $1,000. You've got $800. Club seats for the one that is reserved for the banking institution in the building, their club, $5,900 for 12 tickets on the club level. 12 tickets available at $5,900 plus. Access to the banking club, all-inclusive food and beverages.
And Michael, he played on turf in France. I wonder if this is going to be part of the conversation of, hey, man, thanks for coming to MLS. There's a couple places that have turf. We're going to need you to play, even if it's just 45 minutes on them. Mm-hmm. Even if you can just give us 45 minutes, that'd be peachy. Yeah, because he's played on turf before. We'll see.
$1,100 for the club in 129.
Even if he comes on in the 60th minute.
Oh yeah. Come on for a cheap pop at the end.
Yeah, Come on, just for a little bit, and just the cheap pop, and get the moment where he comes on the field, has some fun.
Yeah.
Plays with everybody, and even if he doesn't play, honestly, you get a moment. You get a moment where even he's warming up in the corner in the stadium, absolutely collapses under the weight of its own existence.
Supporters section tickets, by the way, $285 to $350.
And so this is the thing. I want to see what the market does. I want to see if they go up or down.
Mm-hmm. The car-based lounge, $1,350 for club tickets there. $900 for club I mean, it is.
There's like 2 teams in La Liga that have turf. I got to remember which ones. I think it's not Laurent. I don't think it's FC Laurent, but I know there's at least 1 or 2 that have turf. That he's played on. Like, yeah, it's not ideal, and that's what I was saying. Like, you might get him on a cheap pop for 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you would get him for the entirety of the game.
Yeah,
because to your point, like it's not going to be his favorite thing to do. So I mean, yeah, I could absolutely see them getting him on for, 25, 30 minutes and not necessarily starting on turf.
right.
But he's played on it before.
Yeah. Looking at stadiums and team guides and statistics. Yeah, well, Sean, you probably could. Sean is wondering if he can pay for next season's tickets by selling 1 game. Probably. You probably could. If demand continues to be what it is. I mean, it's, Stadium DB. You're not helping people. I need to know grass or turf. I don't need to know which ones they are. So if I use the word,
Nelson and Laurent have synthetic turf.
Okay, thank you.
Unless they've changed, they've changed, those are the ones that have turf.
Yeah, and apparently, Ligue 1 was the first European league to have clubs with synthetic turf. Yeah, okay, so yeah, Nancy and Lorient. Okay, so those are the ones. All right. So now that we got that figured out. Mentioning the get-in prices for Atlanta United and Inter Miami, we got that one figured out. So if we go into August for the match against Charlotte, you click on DRVP and K for that one from Ticketmaster. On sale date and time are in the works. Please check back. That's Ticketmaster right now for the match in late August at DRVP and K. Then you've got August 30th. On sale date and time are in the works. Please check back. So,
yeah, they're going to be a little more reluctant.
But I will say this: if you go to SeatGeek, by the way, you go to SeatGeek, Leagues Cup Cruz Azul at Inter Miami on SeatGeek. Get in is $521. Everything blew up after July the 8th for that venue. Leagues Cup, the Atlanta United match, get in $341. Charlotte, get in $175. Nashville, get in $157. September, Sporting, get in $160. Toronto, get in $148. NYC, get in $170. FC Cincinnati on decision day, get in at $170 on SeatGeek. That's what you're staring at.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it goes because to Michael's point, like you're going to get load management out of Messi.
Yeah,
is what it is. It's just the nature of the universe, man.
Yes, nature, and yes, it is.
It's what happens. It's what happens when you have when you bring in a 35-year-old former star, or not even former, sorry, a 35-year-old star who's kind of on the back end of his career.
Mm-hmm. If
Ricky, people are not thinking about this. Like, you're right. The DC tickets are going high. He ain't gonna be here yet.
No. There's no rationality when it comes to what you're staring at when it comes to ticket prices and all this kind of stuff. It's absolutely insane. Brad's number last night, Will, on SofaScore was a 9. He had a 9.0 last night.
Should have been higher, to be honest.
With all of the and the idea of it's going to be 8.5 or 9, and it's 8.5 or 9. Yeah, it should have been. Tom posited back when the Messi thing was still just rumors, but he wondered if Thiago might decide to finish out the season just to play in that match against him in September. Of course, that obviously assumes Messi would actually play. I think Thiago has to look out for his own future. And if a club in Europe knocks on the door and says, hey, here's 35 or 40, Atlanta United can't say no. They can't. They just simply can't say no. That's just it. It's the economics of the business. Yes, it's fantastic that you now have two members of the World Cup winning Argentine squad in Major League Soccer, or soon, probably, hopefully, possibly, probably, surely, two. But you can't, for one match, have Thiago Almada waiting until September unless there's a deal that completely has totally fallen apart. Then you've got to do what's right for the club and the player. And yeah, it'd be great to play against Lionel Messi in September. Maybe there's a loan back. There is a possibility where if a deal took too long, if the deal went into August, say the negotiations for a deal with a club go into August, and the idea is that if that club doesn't get Thiago Almada from the beginning of their training camp, especially if they're getting ready for European competition, then you sign him, you loan him back to Atlanta United. Maybe you take a little bit off of the monetary value, and then at the end of Atlanta United's season, then you send him over to whatever club is interested, and then he integrates there, and he's there for the second half of that season. That would be the only scenario where I could see something of that way of going about things. So it literally, you want to do right by the player. You want to do right if you're the club, especially with the economics of the deal. But the longer a negotiation happens to take, then you could have something where Thiago gets loaned back or something like that. So just keep an eye on that going forward. There are a lot of Carlos Vela jokes in the Twitch pitch this morning, Jarrett, after the penalties.
I mean, so here's the thing about Vela. Carlos Vela has been very good in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carlos Vela is kind of running into the end of the road a bit when it comes to like consistently being amazing.
Yeah.
Simply because he's getting older. Like Carlos Vela can do it in bursts.
Yes.
But like, here's the thing, man. 2019 was it 21, 2, 3? That's 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Simple maths.
Yes.
Quick maths. Big Shaq. Yep. That's 4 years ago, and he's not the same guy that he was then. And you're going to get him in bursts. As far as like, if we're making fun of the penalty's weird. And I would posit this to people who played at a high level, and I think it'd be interesting to ask them about it. Because first off, like Brad gets the save on him.
Yep.
Brad was just on one last night. There's not really anything you were going to do about that. Some nights, and we've seen Atlanta be on the other end of this. God knows we have watched games where Atlanta played a team. They were better than that team for very, very, very large chunks of the game. And, somebody stood on their head,
mm-hmm.
or things just didn't go your way. And you walked out of there with a point, really pissed off because some keeper, got possessed for 90 minutes and you didn't win a game that you felt like you should have won.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny to have that shoe be on the other foot. It's also very funny to watch people react to it because I think, it's one of the things where you're gonna have games where you're not good, and you're gonna be asking people to bail you out because God knows we've watched teams do that in Atlanta. But that being said, Brad saves that PK.
Mm-hmm.
Foot comes off the line earlier. That's a whole entirely different conversation about run-ups and keepers being on the line that I asked last night. Of how do you police run-ups versus keeping your foot on the line when guys can stutter, step, and hop all the time?
Yep.
Guys can do everything but come to a full stop. It's really tough to ask keepers to keep their foot all the way on the line.
Yep.
But after that after that one, it's kind of in your head, I think, if you're Carlos Vela. Even Carlos Vela, one of the best goal scorers this league has ever seen and probably will ever see. It's still in your head because you just had your attempt blocked.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, and you're thinking a lot about what just happened. Like it's very much in your head. You're thinking, where do I go now? He just saved that one. Do I go back to the same spot? Do I go somewhere else? What do I do? And you almost overthink it. And sometimes you get that where like you get a guy thinking, okay, I'm going to put this one perfectly, and then when he does so, it's imperfect. If that makes sense. Like you just overthink it. He gets inside of his own skull.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Some might say Bale is 4 years older than he was in 2019.
Yes. Strange.
Well, here's the secret, Bam. Actually, I built a secret capsule that floats around the sun at various distances. Bale has been living in that. He's actually aging slower.
Yes. Well, in some aspects. Parzival is saying that the game, that keeper match that is almost always against Sean Johnson. Well, there's Sean Johnson. There's
Kenneth Vermeer pulling one out of his ass for Cincinnati in 2021 is one of the things that pisses me off more than anything on this planet because Kenneth Vermeer was almost undoubtedly the worst keeper in the league that year. He was horrendous. And for 35 minutes, he could not be beaten. And it was the most Atlanta United thing I've ever seen. Where, like, you're playing a keeper who isn't good.
No.
This flat out was not good. And, hey, bam, you had Kenneth Vermeer in LAFC for a minute. Yeah, you'll get them. You'll get those moments against, like, Sean Johnson. Tim Melia used to pull those out against people all the time, and that's not to say that Melia is bad. Melia was one of the most underrated goalkeepers in this league's history.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you get those, and like they get in your head, you know? Or God, how do we get past this wall? Can we do like Caddyshack and cut his hamstrings with a knife?
Yep. Nix brings up a point, and Bam went down the Joe Dickerson route, and we've had our Joe Dickerson discussions here on the show and in general. Nix brings up a moment from last night that Dickerson was better than the one in the Open Cup match in Birmingham. He was awful.
Well, because I think U.S. Soccer gave an Open Cup match to Sergei Demyanchuk.
Yeah.
Who is, for any of you who have been to a Twos game or been to a USL game, Demyanchuk has done those games. You've seen him. You would know. You've yelled at him. He's bad at his job. You know, I know Bart's not here to do reffing down here. Demyanchuk has been consistently bad at his job for an extended period of time, and you gave him an Open Cup match. What the absolute hell were you thinking, you drunk idiots? Absolutely unacceptable. He has been very, very bad for an extended period of time, and you gave him a high-leverage Open Cup match, and he spit the bit, which is the most understandable thing he could have done. I cannot get over that crap from U.S. Soccer. I feel bad for Birmingham. Birmingham played their ass off. There's Birmingham also. There's parts of it where they kind of doomed themselves.
True.
Because Birmingham had opportunities and just were unable to. They were just unable to get the final ball.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that being said, you had a blatant handball that is an easy call. Even if, and I say blatant, even if he didn't mean to do it, the hands away from the body on a goal-bound shot in the box.
The picture is out.
Demyanchuk's just like, I didn't see anything. What are you gonna do now? Oh well.
Play on.
Like, yeah. And it changed. Look, go bug Kaler about this. God bless him, because when the stream died, Kaler was out there like looking out for an entire country with his updates in the game, because last night was a night of follies for the Open Cup in that one, because Paramount/Golazo has the stream cut out for like 5 to 10 minutes, which, pissed me the hell off as well. The way Birmingham plays, if they get that early lead, it's a different animal because they're going to sit.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to absorb you, which and credit Miami. Miami made changes at halftime that made them better. Because up until that point, Miami did not have the lion's share of the opportunities. They had a couple, but their changes at halftime really opened things up for them. Birmingham's a different animal when they can sit. What they did against Memphis in the Open Cup before this, and actually before the last game, what they did against Memphis is what they're good at. They can get that lead. They can pick their spots. They can pick their opportunities where they're fine defending. Matt Van Okel is fine standing on his head if you need him to and just smiling at you the whole time like a crazy man.
Through that beard that houses small animals.
Yes, that beard small animal, nothing. That beard houses a damn California condor. But they can pick their spots.
Yep.
You impact the game directly with that. Then you have the game almost evolve into a street fight because of, look, man, tackle was, you want to make a damn good argument for it was a dirty tackle on Pasher. Pasher is running down the right. The ball is bouncing a bit, but dude sticks his leg way too high up and takes Pasher out. He gets hurt in the process, and Pasher doesn't. It's kind of funny to me. Like, Pasher doesn't give a damn if he's hurt. Pasher wants to fight him. And then a minute later, Pasher throws basically a spinning back fist. The game almost devolved into chaos and fighting because you have a ref who can't do his job and can't control the game.
Mm-hmm.
Be better than this crap. U.S. Soccer,
True.
I know you have a shortage of refs. I completely get it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to if we're going to measure games by the importance of the game, of the gravity of the game, get somebody else on a U.S. Open Cup game where it's Cup Set City.
Mm-hmm.
Just once I saw he was roughing the game, like, oh man, this is like the idea that, oh man, this is probably going to end badly enters your mind, and then you're like, yep. Then that guy doesn't need to be doing that game.
Yep.
Especially as physical as it got, as chippy as it got, teams were ready to fight. Just nothing about it was acceptable.
Yep. And we've got, and now we kind of know who's in the next stage of that. See, this is the stream of consciousness portion of the program here on Thursday Thoughts. Nix was wondering how, with them having a match, he's wondering about energy. Having a match Sunday and us having the weekend off, do we not come out with more energy than we did week after week? The team fails to show urgency early.
I think I'll disagree. I thought they were fine early in that game. Like, first 20 minutes, like they played through LAFC.
Yeah.
And they created a couple chances. A couple of like half chances down the wings. Now, the problem there being that that you aren't getting in product or even, good assisting balls from Luis, who wasn't good.
Right.
And from Etienne, who was okay, but is running out of runway really quickly because Derek Etienne Jr., this was his chance to really show out with Caleb at the U20s.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. Not only did he not do it, but you're in a situation where people are calling for Tyler Wolf to get those minutes instead. And now Caleb's back.
Yep.
Like, you didn't get what you needed out of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the game went on, it just kind of like you weren't breaking through, which was frustrating.
Yep.
Just should have you like I said, I wanted them to be able to go and take the fight to LA late in the game, where LA was on tired legs.
Yep.
that was when I wanted you to take the fight to them. And I don't know if Atlanta was also on tired legs. And I get you're flying cross country, which can't be understated because cross country sucks.
Yes.
Even if you've had like a day or two to adjust, it sucks to fly like that.
Yep.
And your body clock gets all jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. But
yep.
I wanted them to bring the fight late in the game. They didn't. But I thought they started off. They had a couple misplaced passes in the back, but they didn't get punished by them. They started to find a bit of space.
Yep.
The frustrating part was they didn't continue that, and it's almost just like they just kind of flinched a bit, you know?
Yep.
So,
no, Emilio Luis Arujo did not get hurt. He was subbed late. And, once again, you have to consider in the idea of schedule compression. And that's why we went over them. And I know that I'm looking at something that you posted earlier in the show. So just always keep in mind schedule compression and minutes for multiple matches in a short period of time. So that's the biggest thing that I would maintain there. A lot of folks in the timeline are saying that both USL teams were hard done by. Pittsburgh got hard done by, as did Birmingham in their matches.
Pittsburgh did, but I felt a little bit better because Cincinnati got 2 more goals. At least it wasn't one. If Pittsburgh had lost 1-0 on an offside goal, I'd have been a lot more pissed off. I get it, goals change games, but Cincinnati did find another goal in that game.
Yeah,
or another 2 goals in that game. And the third one is like everybody from Pittsburgh is getting forward kind of thing, and then you get exposed and whatever happens. Yeah, they were both hard done by them, but Pittsburgh and Birmingham both needed to find ways to get it across the line, and they weren't able to put away opportunities, which is the part that sucks because everything up to then, I thought they did a good job with.
Yep. Knicks. If Miami gets Tata, Messi, Busquets, and Luis Suarez, while supposedly under sanctions, I'm going to cry a very loud shenanigans in all caps. But,
I mean, yeah, because
it is shaping up to be Messi and friends, isn't it?
It is, and it's like it does present an air of BS, like an air of like kayfabe kind of getting pulled back on the curtain a bit. No, seriously though, because they're still under punishment. Like, how are you going to fit? Are these guys going to come in and play for GAM money? You bring in Luis Suarez and Busquets, they all going to come in for GAM? Is that what we're going to do? You want to tell me they're going to come and play here for pennies, comparatively speaking?
Sources told ESPN Sam Barsden and Moises Llorens and transfer insider Fabrizio Romano, clubs in talks with Busquets and targeting Angel Di Maria. They're both free agents. Busquets announced in May he'd leave Barcelona. His contract expires June 30. Latter said Wednesday his time at Juve is ending after one season. However, Benfica are reportedly pushing to re-sign Di Maria, who played there from 2007 to 2010. Busquets and Di Maria have also reportedly drawn interest from Saudi Arabia. Messi was Busquets' teammates at Barca for a decade. And the question in all of this, Messi basically has signed for an NIL deal. That's the best way that I can describe what this is. I think until you address the salary cap issue, and that's what it is. It is an issue that needs to be fixed, especially if you're going to be bringing in this high-priced talent. If you want to bring in high-priced talent, you have to address the salary cap, designated player, Garber Bucks issue.
Yes, 100%. You're going to have to figure this out. If you're going to bring all these guys in, there's a certain level of hell that comes with the fact that Miami just kind of ignored the rules in their initial roster build, got punished, and now they're getting Messi, and now they might get basically the Super Friends. Most of the Super Friends being older, but still,
yes,
they'll be able to make some fun things happen. Don't get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
there is a certain level of like there is no justice because you have a Miami team that basically went like rules are for suckers, and now they're getting messy.
Yeah. Sam Williamson, we're going backwards to 1.0 signings, signing aging European stars. Messi's the exception because he's the GOAT.
You mean we, Kimasabi? I don't want to be that team.
Yeah.
Remember, Miami also did this with Blaise Matuidi, and Blaise Matuidi rewarded them by just getting absolutely housed by half of MLS because he wasn't fast enough to still do the job.
And he got body checked into retirement by Santi Sosa.
Yeah, Sosa wasn't the only one who was doing that. Like, there was very much like, the Mr. Krabs meme where the world was kind of swirling around. Was kind of swirling around him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't want to be that team who decides. I don't want to be that team who decides like, yeah, we're just going to keep getting these guys in our mid-30s. Nah, man. Go get me guys like 27, 28 years old. Get me guys in their prime like a Gigi, and give me 4 or 5 good years of love.
Mm-hmm.
We'll hand you a pocket watch, and you want like a job in a special advisor to the front office role afterward, man. You know what? We can make that happen.
Enter Miami with their DPs, Campagna, Gregory, and Pizarro.
By the way, Gregory missing is still one of like my favorite things about this. Of like, man, Messi with this team. Like Gregory's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory was the fulcrum of that midfield. He's hurt, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I need y'all to remember that. Like the dude's still banged up. Like Messi alone ain't fixing that. We had this conversation last year with Toronto. I get it. Insigne ain't Messi.
No.
But like it said last year, Insigne ain't fixing all that was wrong with Toronto. Messi alone is not fixing all that is wrong with Miami. He's not.
No, and Sam, I don't think you're crazy to think that Bex was responsible for changing the landscape of MLS twice. I don't think that you're wrong there.
100%.
I don't think you're wrong there at all. But I would anticipate that if you bring in, and I'm saying if, just on the notion that it is not a signed completely deal. Messi admitting yesterday that there's still stuff that needs to be done. Niko Moreno coming up in 10 minutes, by the way. That Campagna, Gregory, and Pizarro will not be your DPs come next season. Unless you sign the Justice League to NIL deals like you're proposing with Lionel Messi.
Here's the thing. Are you going to sign Messi to like a TAM deal? Is he going to be on the books as a TAM deal? And he's just getting millions upon millions from like Apple and Audi and Adidas and everybody else. Like, is that what's going to happen here? How does this look on paper? Because you still do have like actual rules that exist in this league.
Yeah, you do.
I want to see how they make this work. Because that's my genuine question about all this.
Mm-hmm. How do you make it work?
You won't make it fit. I just want to see how. Like, if they got to change the rules, Garber will do it.
Yeah,
I want to see how.
But let me posit this. And Tafka does have a question about venues we get to in a second. If it's an NIL deal, should it matter what the salary is? If you sign him to base plus incentives, and he admitted in the interview with Mundo Deportivo it was not about the money. I think you sign him to something akin to a DP deal. Think about it. Not So Big Shaq is making 8.4 in Chicago. Xherdan Shaqiri is making that kind of money as a DP in Chicago because Joe Mansueto decided he wanted to continue with that contract. You're going to be able to find people who will want Pizarro, Gregory, and Campagna. I think you still keep Campagna, but that's just me. I think that folks find places. I think you find places for Pizarro and Gregory. Or maybe you keep Gregory and maybe you buy him down or whatever. But I think that at least one, if not two, of those DPs are no longer DPs. If you are chasing after Busquets, Di Maria, and Messi, Knicks, he has to be a DP if they sign this as a TAM player. Knicks is already saying he's going to burn the league to the ground if Messi is signed as a TAM.
And so, what was? I do want to talk about the stadium, this venue thing. Like, what was Tafka's question? Because I do have venue questions about Miami.
All right. Well, one more thing. Parzival wants to know
Yes.
what NIL is basically for
name, image, likeness. It's college football. It's players getting paid for their name, image, likeness. It's something that should have happened a long time ago. But look, the NCAA is one of the most incompetent organizations you'll find on the face of the earth. These people went in front of Congress. Mark Emmert, making more money than God, went in front of Congress and just said really stupid things like basically like Billy Madison level incompetent arguments. Like I did not know it was possible for a major professional organization to be that pathetically just lying to everyone's face about everything stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Alas, they are.
Yeah.
But now you have college players who you through NIL can get money for sponsorships, that sort of thing. So like you had like I think Jordan Davis was doing sponsorships for like a law firm in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
There was a wide receiver who played for he committed to LSU, ended up at Nebraska, and then he transferred again. His name was DeColdest Crawford.
Yes.
Coldest.
Yes.
DeColdest Crawford was doing doing like basically like he was doing HVAC commercials. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So if you want to say like, hey, Messi's going to like make some money, make a little bit of money playing, and he's going to make the rest of his money off of all these sponsorships and whatnot. Cool, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's dumb, but I can't tell you no.
Yeah. Name, image, and likeness. When we mention NIL, Parzival, that's what we're talking about. Name, image, and likeness, and basically it's a way for you to attach yourself to products, do TV commercials, get endorsement deals, those kinds of things like we're seeing with Adidas and with Apple and all these kinds of things. So basically, without knowing a salary figure right now for Lionel Messi, all of these attachments that he has to brands, name, image, and likeness, that's where that is.
So to Sam's point, so here's the thing. Joseph's not a DP, by the way. Joseph's not a DP in Miami. If you end up selling him to make room for other guys, cool, because if it's okay, first of all, man, if it's Messi and Busquets in that midfield, woe be unto whoever has to play like and run for 25,000 years.
Who's your center back?
Well, not even your center back, man. Who else is playing in that midfield who gets to die running?
Yeah. It's like, we ain't going. Y'all
and
go.
not to say those guys won't run. They're not the same they
They'll
were.
run
They're older. Yeah, and Messi will run. Messi's just smart. He picks his spots really well. Yeah, like how does this shape out?
Yeah. And Parzival, question from Parzival, do they allow this for all teams for deals in the future? What if Atlanta wants Haaland? They should. If a team can be as imaginative, as a league when it comes to endorsement deals and trying to find ways to augment salaries because your current salary structure needs to be reworked, then you better, there will be teams. What this will do, I will guarantee you, what this will do is it will have some of the brain trust in Major League Soccer in individual organizations and individual teams try to figure out, okay, what can we do on a local basis to set up name, image, and likeness, the product attachments to bring in players where we can do it underneath the salary structure that we are currently given in Major League Soccer. This will set brain trusts in Major League Soccer into boardrooms with whiteboards trying to figure out how we can broker deals if you are wired this way as an organization. to figure out how to bring in higher price talent than your cap and your DP structure will allow. This will be the big jigsaw puzzle going forward, I think, for Major League Soccer until they fix the salary structure.
Yeah, I want to see, like, Sam mentioned, like, you're going to have a fourth DP in the middle of the season. That would be, first of all, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Add a fourth DP in the middle of the season.
Just add a fourth DP.
Like, make the summer transfer window somehow even more drunk.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, man. Do it.
Topka Stadium question. Does Miami move into Hard Rock on at least a partial basis for a while? I feel like they kind of have to. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, man, they have to.
Whatever venue fits them. I don't know what the dimensions are at Hard Rock. I don't know if it is FIFA compliant. That's my first question. If it's not, then you probably end up going to Marlins Park and trying to figure something out there. But once you're pinned into the Marlins schedule,
no.
So
I don't like that idea at all.
But that's the thing. You've got to figure out if Hard Rock is FIFA compliant or MLS compliant, or is it like Yankee Stadium?
You find a way.
Yeah, it's compliant.
Find a way.
Yeah, it's compliant.
You find a way. You find a way to play there because of the seating.
Yeah. So that would be.
Man, imagine the old days if, like, the Orange Bowl was still a thing.
Oh boy.
Like the old Orange Bowl, or the old Joe Robbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome, Messi. Here's Joe Robbie Stadium.
Yes, and just call it Lionel Messi Stadium.
But you got to play it in Hard Rock. You have to. I don't see how you have a choice.
Yeah.
Because of the potential for ticket sales, and they're going to be greedy, because of course they are.
Right.
They're going to see the potential for ticket sales. They're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And Michael and Tofka are bringing up the thought of, isn't it is a World Cup 26 venue, yes. I just don't know if in its current structure, much like SoFi, that it is FIFA compliant. If it is, cool. That's where you got to go. Absolutely. It is a no-brainer if it's FIFA compliant right now, or if it's MLS compliant with width. So, yes. Yeah, DRVP&K is like 18,000. Demand will already supersede supply. So I don't think that renting Hard Rock for Lionel Messi is going to be an issue going forward in South Florida. So that's kind of what we're staring at here, is that you've got to have a venue change. And the other element in this is that since we were discussing tickets and prices, then what happens to those individuals who are season ticket holders at DRVP&K if everything gets shifted to Hard Rock?
You shift their season tickets over there. You did this in Atlanta.
With some kind of an equivalency that's going to anger people.
You did this in Atlanta when you moved from Bobby Dodd to Mercedes-Benz. You shifted season tickets. You look at it and you find a way to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do that, but you find a way.
Yes, you find a way to make it happen. And so it will be the equivalency will be interesting for me. Tofka is already doing schedule crossovers. Schedule for this season works pretty well despite the Hurricanes and the Dolphins. Sam, what's Messi going to think when he has to play on a baseball field? Well, and Parzival, can anyone else see Hard Rock undergoing a renovation that rivals the speed of the I-85 bridge rebuild? Yes. There's going to be, if it's not, like I said, if I would imagine that it is, but if it's not, or there has to be some messing around with it. Sorry, that was an unintentional almost pun. It is absolutely beneficial and mandatory that you move into Hard Rock, because once again, what that does is it shows you to South Florida that the Moss brothers want to build this stadium, and they sit there and they say, see, look at our demand. We need to have our new stadium. Here's the reinforcement of that idea. So it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy for the Moss brothers that they bring in Lionel Messi and then they play at Hard Rock, and it's like, see, we need to have our capacity stadium be what it is. So that's what you're staring at. David, is this going to be like the NBA load management where Messi doesn't play on turf on back-to-backs in 20 minutes expecting angry fans and markets? Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that you got to keep an eye on. Always got to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. So
I think you're asking him, hey, man, like, and Messi is a competitor. Like, let's not sell Lionel Messi short.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
I think you are asking him, though, hey, man, I understand you. If you feel like you need load management, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
We would love to see you play in every venue because, oh, my God, the ticket sales, oh, my God, the fans, like, the atmospheres are going to be insane. Even if you can start and give us 45 or so or 50 or 60, whatever, cool. If you feel like you can only give us 20 off the bench, that'd be great too. Whatever you need, whatever's gonna be best for you, Lionel.
Yep. So whatever it lays out, and then there's also we mentioned the Busquets and Di Maria to enter Miami, and like I said, this time of year we do not mention this enough at times. Follow your sources. Check,
especially nowadays, the damn Bird app, where like the check mark doesn't mean what it used to mean. Now it just means somebody who thinks way too highly of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, you gotta now you actually got to do a little more work than check for the check mark. Now you gotta like, hey, man, you see somebody drop something like I did this yesterday when, like, we haven't even talked about this yet. Like RSL going out and getting
Chicho Arango.
go getting Arango. By the way, they won last night in Open Cup.
Yeah, I know.
RSL's gonna make a run to the Open Cup. This is amazing.
They'll be the Sporting Kansas City of 2023, and since it is 7:30, since it's 7:30 in the morning on the West Coast, that means we bring in this guy. It is Thursdays with Niko, which means it's Thursday, and there's Niko.
What's up, guys? What is going on? How's everybody doing out here? We are riding some high vibes, baby, called Lionel Messi. So excited to be on with you guys. I got my second cup of coffee today, which is kind of early for 2, but that's the type of morning we've had.
Wow.
Hey, special times call for special actions.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, man. It's been a lot of buzz, a lot of movement. So, we've been up for a while.
No doubt. Jarrett, go for it. First question to get to you with Niko.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Okay, let's start with the simple one of, like, your initial reaction to the fact that, this is actually happening now.
Well, I was excited. I wasn't as surprised as most. We've been in soccer bar at the hand of Diego Cora, journalist that has a lot of connections. And, he's been doing a lot of investigative work, including trying to look at the Inter Miami webpage past a certain time and how you couldn't buy tickets past like June. And he thought that was weird, and talking to agents and talking to people. And we kind of thought that it was a high possibility. I never thought that the Barcelona thing was going to happen because obviously all the economical trouble that club has in today's day and age. And then the Saudi Arabia League, being someone who knows how important family is to Lionel Messi, style of life, and, even where that league is at, I thought that Messi, if he came down to making a choice, he didn't need money. He probably wanted to go beyond the money and look at other things. Obviously here he might get some generational money, if he gets part of a club and everything that we expect for signing of this magnitude. So excitement, I think, was the biggest thing. And it's been kind of unreal. I mean, I've been getting calls. I've done shows in Uruguay, in Peru. Newspapers have called and just try to find out more about the league. I mean, this is global. If you don't think that this has been the topic of conversation in every single sports adjacent program, even across the globe, then you better ask somebody, because that's what's been happening.
Wow, he's dropping the road dog here in the show this morning. All right, so question from Parzival, wasting no time here in the Twitch pitch. Niko, how does the deal change the way teams approach deals in the future? How do you think?
I don't think it changes anything other than maybe having some leverage to go talk to guys like, I don't know, Firmino, the great stars of the world that maybe are still not necessarily close to retirement, but that maybe are looking for a different league to go play at, right? Maybe a guy like De Bruyne, those players that maybe were not even possible at one point. Maybe you could use that as leverage. But in terms of how contracts happen and some of those underlying things that we've seen happen with Gareth Bale, with Chiellini, and I think they're going to happen with Lionel Messi, where you'll get like X amount of money, and I can't wait for the first salary, numbers to show up and see what they put on those books, and we could just laugh about it, when that happens. But all those underlying things, I don't think change anything. I just really do believe that this Lionel Messi move is going to give MLS a little bit more leverage, because this is not a washed up Lionel Messi. I mean, this is a guy that months ago, I guess you could call it months, won a World Cup. He was the most important player for his national team. He's still a guy that's scoring goals, so you expect that productivity to be there. So I think you can use that leverage to do a lot of things.
Jarrett, go for it.
Yeah, I've been trying to be careful in how I talk about him, because, I guess my thing with Messi is, he's 35. He's capable of everything. What he's going to do, what he has done, is he picks his spots. He's not trying to run 6 miles in a game. He's going to pick his spots, and when he picks them, he's very good at picking them and running with them. As far as the structure goes, how do you think this deal, and we've seen the rumors about, basically the super friends coming with Messi in different iterations. How do you think this changes the way salaries or the cap is structured in MLS?
I mean, maybe when you phrase it that way, and I mean, you heard Cherundolo after the LAFC lost, kind of opening up the umbrella, as we call it in Spanish, is just kind of making a little bit of excuses, if you will, about salary cap, and we need to kind of move on with the times. With this Messi thing and maybe the super friends coming, as you put it, perhaps there is some leadway to start adding another DP or adding some capita to the salary cap. I don't see it going away. To be honest, I don't want to see it go away. I've talked about it in this show, about some of the great things that come with the salary cap. However, I'm not sure if I buy everything that I'm reading, right? That Jordi Alba's coming and that Suarez is coming. I can see Busquets being a guy that, Inter Miami has had interest in the past, that they've looked at, that they could bring in with Lionel Messi. The Tata Martino move makes all kinds of sense. So those things I can see. But I would like to think that Chris Henderson and Inter Miami understand that they can't just bring all of Messi's homies. Just because he's Messi, yes, he's Messi. Of course, you want to make sure that he feels real good, but maybe you get him to help you out with getting some younger guys out here as well. I mean, it's not just going to be a whole bunch of bingo friends at Inter Miami. So because of that, I think we do have to be careful with how rumors get started, because in South America right now, everybody who's had some sort of contact with Messi is all of a sudden Inter Miami's radar. And that's going to happen over and over and over again. So just to kind of conclude the point, I think that maybe there is a little bit of leadway that this might force the league to change a couple of things and add some DP spots or things like that. But to be honest, I haven't heard anything in the underline from anybody that I've talked to, GMs, sporting directors. There don't seem to be anything in the near future. So maybe Messi being Messi just changes it all.
I think what you probably need, instead of just blowing the roof off of it and sitting there going, okay, everybody free spend, because then you're going 180 degrees to what you've created under the single entity model in Major League Soccer. You've got to have a floor and you've got to have a ceiling. But I think that what you do is you really put a ceiling out there and you really have to enforce that floor because, as you know, being there in Seattle, there is an investment in the academy. I mean, what, 11 different players with academy ties have made appearances in recent times for the Sounders. You have Philadelphia, who works through the academy. FC Dallas goes through the academy. Atlanta has academy. So I think that there are teams that still will do things that way and then bring in folks over the top. And I think that if you do it that way with a floor and a ceiling, you're still going to have folks that are going to be like the Arizona Coyotes, but you're still also going to have folks that want to be right there up against the cap number like Vegas and Toronto and that kind of a thing. I think that you have to enforce that, though. You can't just sit there and blow the roof off of everything and go, yeah, new DPs, everybody spends what you want, because then you really do risk doing what other leagues have done and have failed at miserably.
Yeah, I agree. And it's those things that have Barcelona in bankruptcy right now, right? And Lord knows what other teams are in the red and owing their entire future. So, yes, I agree with you. I think that balance is important, maybe creating less of a gap in between like the TAM players and your DP players. I mean, there's so many things that can be added to what the current system is at that I'd be okay with it. But I'm totally with you. As long as they don't completely change it and go away with it and give in to the pressure of people who either not know much about MLS in general, or they just want to follow exactly what the Premier League does and what La Liga does. MLS has done a very good job at being their own brand and their own system, and I want that to continue to be that way because of everything that I've said in the past in terms of equality in competition and domestic play, the academies, and all of those measures that I think really force clubs to use all of those elements and not just depend on the wallet.
Jared Smith with Niko Moreno.
Do you think any of this comes with because we've had a lot of questions about the playing surfaces here because, Atlanta has turf. I know you guys have turf out there in Seattle. Portland's got it. But turf has changed. So even the last 3 or 4 years, it's a different animal than it was in the past. Do you think there was hopefully been any discussion about hey man, I know turf ain't your favorite. Maybe if you want to negotiate hey, 10, 15 minutes at the end of the game kind of thing, but people are coming out to see you, so playing surface be damned, we might get you out here for a little bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, Messi is going to be able to put whatever he wants in that contract. He might not even have to put it in writing. He'd just be able to say, hey, you know what? I woke up today and I had a dream that I didn't want to play on turf, so I'm not. And so he won't, right? So yep. I do believe that you're right, that things have got better. I mean, I wouldn't put my hands over fire or had the back of this CenturyLink turf by any means. I mean, I wouldn't play there if I was Lionel Messi, to be quite frank. But I think that there will be times that maybe things get better and, hopefully this Lumen Field turf gets changed sometime soon. But in general senses, there could be occasions where he might want to just play. I remember Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? He was a guy that had that ego and that.
No.
He got that ego and that persona and the ability to tell LA Galaxy what the heck he wanted to do. And he played here at Lumen Field. So I think that maybe at some point, Messi, who I would like to think is less of a diva in that part, maybe wouldn't mind playing a half or even a full game.
Folks that have been in the Twitch pitch over the last two shows have expressed a concern that bringing in Lionel Messi and the rest of the bingo friends is an MLS 1.0 move, where we've seen MLS get to probably, you want to say MLS 2.5, where it is right now. Some of the folks in the Twitch pitch have posited that this, bringing in Messi and the bingo friends, is an MLS 1.0 move, where you're bringing in the aging star and then you bring in more aging stars and have that as your base. What is your thought on that notion? Is this MLS 2.5 heading to MLS 3.0 because it's Messi and what it can do, because of all the what could be part of the deal and everything involving percentages with corporate partners, that kind of a thing? Or is this a 1.0 move in your mind?
No, I think that's a fair point to bring up and a concern that's valid, because we don't want this to once again go from bringing a guy like Cucho Hernandez to all of a sudden we're bringing Dani Alves, right? I mean, that's not the direction we want the league to take. So I get it. However, like I said just a few minutes ago, I do believe that Messi is also someone that wants to win. He wouldn't want to be a guy that came to Inter Miami and was in the Higuain status that just couldn't quite cut it. He's a competitor. He's someone that's going to want good players around him. I do believe that his soccer IQ is high once he gets to this league and realizes the physicality and the range that you have to cover. He's going to want better players around him. So I don't expect this move to be like the ones before, where he's going to have a trend of older retired players coming here, because of who Messi is. And why this move is not like anything we've ever seen before is because Messi's unlike any player we've ever seen before. I mean, he's literally the best player, arguably the best player in the history of the game to many. Nicolas Odero just said yesterday he believes that Messi is the best player ever. So whenever you get a chance to bring in a guy like Messi, you can't compare it to a Pirlo or a Thierry Henry, even a Zlatan. I mean, you can't compare those players. David Beckham was huge for this league, and he was a game changer at that point in time. But David Beckham cannot hold or tie his cleats, Lionel Messi's cleats. I mean, that's just plain and simple. All due respect to who he was as a soccer player, but Leo is Leo. So because of that, I just think this is different. And when you bring that player, you just take it, right? I mean, Inter Miami went from having 1 million followers to 5 million followers on Instagram. I mean, all eyes will be on MLS. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is the topic of conversation everywhere. So when you're talking about marketing and globalizing the league to extend that, although they've been growing, now that's just going to double, triple, quadruple. That's what Messi does. So he's just unlike anything we've ever seen before. And that's why it's unlike any of the moves in MLS 0.1 or 2, or now I think we're at 3, 2.5 now going to 3.
I have no idea. I think we're on like 3.5 now. I think we're on a beta release of 4 is what we're at. I think Messi is like the beta release of 4. But yeah, to your point, like we had this conversation yesterday about like, as far as players go, like, yeah, Beckham changed this league when he came here. All the respect to Beckham, he ain't Messi. Like, you talk about it. It's on the field, the potential for special moments is astronomical. Aside from the marketing, the exposure, the brand expansion, like you talk about, making the whole damn thing more international. I gotta say the one thing I'm excited about is you talked about some of the younger guys. You imagine being a kid in the academy in Miami, and like Messi's out there. Maybe you had a good week and you're training with the first team. You're training with Messi at like 17 years old. You imagine that life.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, excellence inspires excellence, man. And I think having a guy like that at any point in your club is key, right? And you just said it. You're looking up to playing with this guy, and you want to imitate him, and you want to be able to peak your level of play in order to just get a training session with the guy. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting for everyone. It's exciting for media members. It's exciting for every player in the league just to be able to say, hey, I was in the same pitch as Lionel Messi. Not everybody has gotten a chance to play with Leo, as there are quite a few in MLS. But at this point in time, man, that's just unheard of. So I think it's unbelievable.
All right.
I mean,
so
to that point, like I don't know if you saw this story last week in Atlanta. Ozzy played with the Twos. Ozzy Alonso played with the Twos this week. John's trying to steal his jersey because Ozzy wore a number 85, and that might be the only number 85 that ever gets made with Ozzy's name on the back. But there's a kid who came out of Atlanta United's academy, David Mejia, a Peruvian player, who grew up out in Washington. And you talk about that impact of, growing up and idolizing these guys. Mejia had a picture that he took with Ozzy when he was like 9 or 10 years old, when Ozzy was out in Seattle and Mejia grew out on the West Coast. And then they got to play together the other night, and Mejia scored 2 goals and got to share the field with him. I mean, to your point, like, I can't imagine the ideas in these kids' heads of being like 15, 16, 17 years old, and you might get to share the field with a guy who might be the reason you play the game in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Ozzy's one of those guys when he was here with all the young guys like Roldan, he was, so influential for Nicolas Odero today, to a guy like Obed Vargas. I mean, those are the players that you want to watch and follow and see and get to inspire you. And now you're talking about a whole other level because you got Lionel Messi. So as I said, man, I think it's a no-brainer. That is a move that you have to make. You got to praise the Moss brothers and Inter Miami for making it happen, the league in general for going for it. Because, as I said, this is unlike any other move. And this is beyond just marketing. Once again, I want to make that very clear. This is not just about, let's get the brand out there because we have Lionel Messi, like maybe the Saudi Arabia league might have done. Because they don't have that infrastructure. They're not as developed as I believe this MLS league is. But you will get the soccer player. You will get the guy that's going to be able to get there.
All right. We've got 8 minutes. And so obviously what we do when you come on with us is we do our weekly segment of red light, yellow light, green light. I'm guessing that Inter Miami gets a green light this week. Who gets your yellow light this week?
Yeah, no, I'm not ready to give Inter Miami a green light just yet. Messi needs to get here, and he might be the savior, but there's a lot going on with Miami that I do not like. Green light this week around. I'm going to give it to a team that I haven't said that I went yellow on, but it was kind of trending down yellow. So today I'm going to confirm him as a green, and it's San Luis City. Okay. I think San Luis City has been able to get results. They've been able to once again live up to the expectation of that pressure. I think Lowen is one of the best midfielders in MLS today. How he influenced the game. Just this game against Houston, he was playing kind of more on the left side, putting great balls into the box, being a difference maker on set pieces. I just really like that this team has been able to finally find ways to win without clause, and being able to find ways to win without maybe one plan. Because even when the pressure is not working, they're finding other ways to be effective on the offensive end. So I'm ready to give them, once again, that green light. They're top of the West. They're a team that at home is very hard to beat. So because of all those important aspects, I think I'm going to put them at the green. I think Vasilev also, I think he's been so good, and that's a guy I think Inter Miami wish they had back as well. But he's been so good at just creating space for everybody, being a full-on motor guy constantly. I like their defensive shape in general. And look, I know Houston is kind of on the decline, and we'll talk about that in red light. But still, the 3-0 win, that's a big one.
All right, so Jared, I know you turn into a pumpkin. Give me your green, your yellow, and your red light before you go.
Oh God. Honestly, I think for green, it's a team we saw last night. I think LAFC is going to be fine. Now that the Cup is behind them, now the CONCACAF Champions League is behind them, I think they will continue to. I think they will be in very good shape. They put on a good show last night. Brad Guzan just got possessed for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm yellow with a team like Houston. I'm not necessarily quite to red light, but they're limited in what they can do. And it's a multi-year. I think you bring in Ben Olsen for a multi-year project.
Yeah.
You don't bring in Ben Olsen to magically turn this around in 6 months. It's gonna take longer than that. And I think in the long term they can be okay. I don't know what their ceiling can be. Depends on how much they're willing to spend. Depends on how they're willing to market it and what should be kind of like. Man, look, Houston's got like Atlanta vibes for basketball. Like Houston and MLS feels like what Atlanta could be for the NBA. Like it could be a monster if you just did it right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But you just haven't recently. And then for red light,
mm-hmm.
I mean, is it still Chicago? Like,
yeah,
that kind of new manager bounce, just kind of the dead cat quit bouncing, metaphorically speaking. It's their problems went deeper than Ezra Hendrickson. I wasn't a fan of firing him at the time because I thought they could not close out games to save their lives. Not unlike San Jose this year or Atlanta, they could not close out games to save their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And now it just seems like they got a little bit of a boost after all that, but it just kind of feels like that boost is really starting to wane, and Chicago still has roster issues, and I don't love their chances going forward. Although I do like the shout for, hey, Miami still got problems as well. Like all of this is great, all this is great. Miami still got problems. They still got to have a conversation with God about all this.
Yep. All right. So you'll be back for a weekend whip around tomorrow.
Yep.
All right. So we'll see you at 10:00 tomorrow morning on the East Coast. So the question is, before we get into your other lights, before we get into juice boxes, Jason Nix wants to know: will Messi play on turf? That's what you have to find out. Apparently, Jason Nix says that is your assignment. Will Messi play on turf?
Plain and simple. If I had to take a guess today, I'd say no. I just feel like at so early coming into the league, and he's gonna want to, I think, take it easy when it comes to those circumstances. He's gonna have an adaptation moment happening for him, because even the best player in the planet in the history of the game, he's never had to play in Miami on a Saturday and then fly to LA on a Wednesday and then come back to Houston after that. I mean, it's tiring. It's taxing. It's something that not every player is used to, going from the climatic changes of playing in Houston to playing in Montreal and back to Seattle, and now you're back in Miami. Those are things that people might overlook, but they're not easy to do. And I can't take all of the credit here. I talked to Craig Weibel yesterday. He had some really good points about the difference of playing in Spain, where 80% of the games you go to in bus because Spain is not that big, to moving to the United States in MLS as a league, where you're taking planes absolutely everywhere. And even if you take a private jet and you're leaving the Cristiano Ronaldo life, and you got Oprah hanging out next to you in this flight, I mean, it's going to be difficult to just get used to that amount of travel in the family aspects and everything. So because of that, I think he's going to take it easy with the turf just to start off, and then maybe later on down the road, we'll see how that plays out.
All right. So who's your red light this week? Or which direction did we not do?
Yeah. So we went green with City.
Okay.
Cornell bringing that team back to the early success. Red because I respect Jared, I will not put Houston in the red. I'm going to leave him there at orange, and I'm going to go with the LA Galaxy. And what is the parameters of green light, yellow light, red light? If I give you a new, different reason, well, I'm going to once again put him in the red because I think U.S. Open Cup was this rubber ducky holding on to their year, their season, and all of a sudden you're kind of in the middle of the pool, and that just got popped.
Wow.
And I expect changes. I expect Greg Danny to go at some point. Javier Hernandez came off in a stretcher yesterday. That's huge blow for this team. That's the one player that they can count on at least having the right attitude and keeping guys accountable and busting his behind off for 90 minutes, 96, 100. It didn't matter how much they played. Go ahead and criticize Javier Hernandez's inability to score sometimes and criticize his twitching on a 1 a.m., 2 a.m., right before a game. Fine, I'm okay with that. But don't criticize the man's commitment to his team and the club and the fans. So I think that's a big player out. Hopefully he's okay. Haven't heard anything, obviously. But if that's a big injury, watch out, because that team's going to not just lose Javier Hernandez, a soccer player, but Javier Hernandez, the leader.
All right, a couple of juice boxes we want to get into before we go. Obviously, folks on our side of the Mississippi River want to know what you think about Atlanta United. They're at home. They get DC United, one of the 7:30s on Saturday night. Atlanta United's minus 133. Your draw and DC are both within the margin of error around a plus 300.
Man, Atlanta's been so difficult, man. And they proved right everything that I've talked about just last night, man. I mean, there were moments where Purata would make a great defensive play, and then he's trying to come out the back and just completely gives the ball away on a free, easy ball, and he creates a bad moment. Araujo takes on 2-3 guys and loses the ball. He might be the guy that loses the ball most in this league, man. I mean, it is unbelievable. There's one time where Araujo kind of gets far on the right side, makes a beautiful move on the defender. You know, he has all this space all right, and then doesn't put the ball where Gigi wants it, and Gigi's giving you all of this. So, man, I just have a hard time figuring out how this unit can be more cohesive. So against DC United, a team that, if they have something, is a little bit of an identity, how they play, set pieces, how they start just right off of kickoffs, very structured at this time. This is going to be a difficult one for Atlanta, but I'm going to take the draw on it. I've been doing good on the draws. that Portland Sounders one was a good one. So, yeah, I'm going to take the draw with this one, just simply because I think it's going to be a little bit of a chess match. I could see maybe Gonzalo being a little bit cautious, not in terms of like parking the bus, but how much they're going to hold possession, how selective they're going to be when they push forward. So, yeah, I can see this as a draw.
All right, Seattle's in Charlotte. Charlotte is a plus 139 at home. Your draw is a plus 233. Sounders on the road are a plus 190. What do you think?
I'm taking the road team. And I'm taking them confidently in this one. Charlotte might be just unfortunate and out of luck because they're getting a bunch of players back. I mean, you're going to see Raul Ruidiaz first start. You're going to see Christian Roldan first start. You're going to see Alex Roldan back in lineup after being off in suspension. You're going to get a team that just got Obed Vargas back from the U20s. We talked to him yesterday. Talked about how he's just seeing the game a little bit different, how he got the ability to get higher up the pitch and being an influencer in that final third. There's possibility of Jordan Morris being cleared for minutes in this one. That's not set in stone just yet. We'll see what Brian says here in a couple of hours. But with all those things present and a team that I believe is waiting for a statement win against a Charlotte squad that has defensive woes, it's very open in the midfield. Their press is very toothless and ineffective. I can see Seattle dominating this one. So I'm going to take the home team. I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Seattle.
All right, then the third match, considering two of the teams that you mentioned in red light, yellow light, green light, they're playing each other Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock until you get the Super Hyper Mega pregame show and it goes to 1:25. All Caps SC, St. Louis. City is hosting LAG. All Caps is at home is a -105. Your draw is a +273, and LAG is a +250 heading to St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking City in this one. You're talking about a team that just got punched in the face by a not so good Houston team. You just put everything that you had into what could have saved your year. So you got players that are going to be dead. Delgado, Brugman, Ricky. I mean, these are guys that have played a lot of minutes over this last week. And this one was not just frustrating, but it was a taxing game. So I'm taking City without a doubt. They're coming on a high. They look good. I just talked about how differently they can win in today's day and age. And if there's something that LA Galaxy doesn't do well, is taking care of the ball. And turnovers in key sectors of the field where transition is easy for the opponent, and that's what City does well. So I'm taking City.
All right. One question before you go from the Twitch pitch. Luis Abram is a part of the Atlanta United roster, Peruvian national. He's gotten a couple of caps, but he hasn't had the opportunity to crack the lineup for Atlanta United. So folks were wondering what your knowledge base of Luis Abram is, the kind of player that he is, what he can bring to the table if he's able to crack the starting lineup or crack the game day roster for Gonzalo Pineda.
Well, as I said, when you guys brought me on and, we talked about it, I was close to breaking those news. There is a mix and very either you love him or you hate him type of look into him as a player. I think that he physically could do a lot of things right for this Atlanta team. He's good on the one-on-one. He can really get forward, wins a lot of duels, but he's inconsistent coming out the back. And that's something that's so important for this Atlanta team. You saw it just yesterday, right? They get those center backs so high. They're part of the build-up. They're part of the reset. You saw the problems that he had in Open Cup. So because of that, I just don't know if he quite fits what Gonzalo wants to do. As much as Purata drives me crazy, I feel like he could give you more positives than negatives. The ceiling on Luis Abram could be higher than Purata's, but you got to get him there. And I just don't know if he's quite there yet. So what I would say is give him some time to get used to the league, get used to the system, get used to what Gonzalo wants, get coached up by Gonzalo Pineda. And as far as I know, he's a coachable player. So with all those things considered, I think he's a player that could be important in 2024, not so much in 2023.
All right, what's going on with Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
Soccer Bar, we just had a beautiful, wonderful discussion with Nicolas Odero about Lionel Messi coming back, about being halfway point through what could be the last season of his Sanders career. Very interesting statements from him there. We also have a conversation with Albert Rusnak. We got the insight of everything that Brian Spencer had to say about the Timbers draw, what's coming up with Charlotte. We'll have some word about what's said today in just a couple of hours. Will Jordan Morris play? Will he not? You catch that at Pulso Sports. Soccer Bar should be fun, man. We have one of the members of our team, John Rojas, be a complete not believer in the Messi possibilities. He was sure, he was certain that it wasn't going to happen. Today, he's going to have to eat crow. So if you get time, 1 p.m. Pacific, should be a good one.
All right. As always, thanks for sticking in with stoppage time and hanging out with us past the time where they put up the big old light board and they gave us 10. They put 10 on the big old light board this morning past regulation time. Niko, as always, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, John. I love being back in the 7:30 slot, man. I feel animated, feel revived. Let's do it, man. Happy to be on. We'll be back next week.
You got it, brother. All right. That is Niko Moreno, Soccer Bar Pulso Sports. It's always great to have Niko on Thursdays at 10:30 to wrap up our show and catch up with what else is going on. All right. So quickly, before we go, what is on the tube today? Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Yes, we are going long, obviously. All right, so on TV today, BN and BN en Español has the Copa Libertadores, 6, 8, and 10. Metropolitanos Medellín, Olimpia, Atlético Nacional, Santa Fe, and Universitario. Uruguay and Israel in the U20 World Cup, 1:30, that's on FS2. Season Pass has Next Pro, Inter Miami 2, FC Cincinnati 2, that one's at DRVP&K at 7 o'clock. Universo has the U20 doubleheader, Uruguay, Israel at 1:30, Italy, South Korea at 5. The Plus has La Liga, Alaves and Eibar at 3. Fox Soccer Plus has the other U20 match, the 5 o'clock. Paramount Plus has the Brasileiro. It is Bragantino, Flamengo, Fluminense, Atletico Mineiro, and Santos and Internacional. So that is your viewing for today. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. Once again, remember, Saturday. If you have not blocked this out in your calendar, SDH at the Reverb Hotel by Hard Rock, 1 o'clock. We're going to be there. This is our first appearance there at Reverb, and looking forward to doing that show for an hour. Set your tailgating appropriately. You want to come and hang out, and we're going to talk about DC United. We'll get everything squared away. We might even talk about this Messi guy too. Who knows? But looking forward to seeing all of you guys at the Reverb by Hard Rock, 1 o'clock Saturday. Start your tailgating there, or have that as kind of like your lunch part of your tailgate. You get there early, get your lunch, 1 o'clock, go to Reverb. Then when you're done at Reverb, go back to tailgating, and then I'll see you out there at the Gulch. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo with everything going on. Kim Min-jae edging closer to a Manchester United deal, 5 years from Napoli. That's from Nicola Shira. Newcastle interested in hijacking the deal. There's a £42 million release clause that becomes active on July 1st. That's the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Villa interested in signing Harry Maguire. They've also made a formal offer to Villarreal for defender Pau Torres. Al-Ahly president Walid Mu'aath traveled to London in an attempt to sign Riyad Mahrez after they missed out on Messi. Al Hilal made a final attempt for €500 million a year. That's from Helena Condis. After securing Messi, now the talk has turned to Di Maria and Busquets. We talked about that all morning. Bayern Munich still hopeful of trying to persuade Harry Kane to join despite interest from Real Madrid. That's from Dave Ornstein. Manchester City poised to make an approach for Leipzig's defender Josko Vardiol. Luis Suarez, we mentioned that as well. 90 minutes is adding Luis Suarez and Busquets to the Inter Miami discussion. Inter Miami's Nick Marsman, we know him, says the American club is not ready for the arrival of Messi. They're not ready. So Daily Express with Nick Marsman, signed in 2021 from Feyenoord, 30 appearances, found himself as third between among him, Drake Callender, and CJ Dos Santos. Spoke to ESPN while in Miami wearing a Heat jersey. Did say he hopes the forward comes to the club. It'd be nice. I think our club is just not ready yet. We have a temporary stadium and people can just walk onto the pitch. For example, there are no fences. There's no security when we walk from the training ground to the stadium, but I hope he comes. So that's what Nick Marsman had to say about it. Where's my tab? It's like my tab disappeared with all my news. So that was a rather interesting thing to say by Nick Marsman. They're not ready at DRVP&K. Chelsea's N'Golo Kante completed the medical agreeing to the Al Ittihad deal, 2 years, €100 million a season. David De Gea ready to snub a Saudi Arabia offer to stay at Manchester United. AC Milan still keen on signing Ruben Loftus-Cheek, with talks continuing over potential move to Chelsea. Franck Kessie's agent has denied he's up for sale, despite interest from Liverpool. Liverpool and Fabio Carvalho will only be allowed to leave Anfield on loan this summer. A number of Premier League clubs are interested. Florian Balogun is a target for AC Milan and Inter Milan, set to leave this summer after impressing on his loan at Reims. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Brighton preparing a club record £40 million bid to sign Levi Colwill after he impressed on loan from Chelsea last season. The money from Alexis will help offset that. Manchester United closing in on a surprise transfer for Monaco defender Axel Disasi. Luton have joined the race to sign Joel Ladibodiere on a free from Swansea City. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo from the BBC. Stupidity down here. Yes, West Ham won a title yesterday. Yes, it was the European sporting equivalent to probably the CBI or the CIT by winning the Europa Conference League final. But people got stupid again. A cup was thrown. It hit Fiorentina captain Cristiano Biraghi in the head, and it caused a massive bleed. The pictures are out there, and it ain't pretty. Plastic pint glasses hurled from the West Ham end throughout the first half in Prague. Referee Carlos Del Cerro Grande eventually stopped play after Biraghi was hit by another object as he went to take a corner just after the half-hour mark. Cut to the back of his head, required treatment and a bandage. They did the message over the PA system. Jared Bowen scored with like a minute and a half to go. West Ham came out with a statement, good for you, that they unreservedly condemn what happened. They say they're going to work with police and other stakeholders to review the incidents and act against anyone who was found guilty of an offense. Details passed to the police. Indefinite ban. Congratulations. Sounds great. Enforce it. Earlier in the day, police in Prague arrested more than 30 people after violence broke out ahead of the game in the city center. It's thought a group of West Ham fans were drinking in a bar when they were attacked by large numbers of men dressed in all black. As other West Ham supporters arrived on the scene, riot cops moved in to keep the groups apart. Czech police confirmed 3 people were injured. 1 policeman was also attacked. 20,000 West Ham fans were in Prague, the majority without tickets, for the final between them and Fiorentina. Remember, it also happened against AZ Alkmaar. Home supporters attempted to, remember, the home ultras tried to get after the West Ham staff, and then you had the one heavyset supporter that fended off like 13 AZ Alkmaar ultras. So 5 West Ham fans injured, according to some fans. So, great if you find them. Cool. Indefinite ban, sure, why not? But still, how are you going to enforce it? That's all I want to know. How are you going to enforce it? Once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper. Sheikh Jassim could walk away from the whole thing. Patients wearing thin. Birmingham City waiting on a windfall in excess of £10 million on the carryover on the Jude Bellingham deal from Borussia Dortmund to Real Madrid. Chelsea looking to sign Neymar this summer as PSG hope to land Bernardo Silva following the exit of Lionel Messi. Avoiding the 4-letter papers news, and there's a lot of it. West Ham can expect a huge fine, according to the Daily Express, after everything was thrown at the Fiorentina players. Rasmus Højlund reportedly being earmarked as a target for Manchester United after Erik ten Hag held multiple video calls with the striker. Mason Greenwood will be informed of Manchester United's decision on his future in the next few weeks, according to the Manchester Evening News. The Athletic. Liverpool is going to listen to offers for Leighton Clarkson as they continue their midfield rebuild. Bayern set to complete the signing of Dortmund defender Rafael Guerreiro on a free. FIFA has been found to have breached Swiss federal law over advertising the 2022 World Cup as carbon neutral. There's an article on that. That's probably going to be back page material on the weekend. Tammy Abraham's had surgery on the ACL injury he suffered during the final game of the Serie A season, Roma confirmed. Birmingham City are set to appoint Gary Cook as their new CEO, meaning that he is leaving his role as executive president and CEO of the Saudi Pro League. Rangers closing in on a £3.5 million deal for Cremonese striker Cyril Desers. Celtic doing their worldwide hunt for the Postecoglou successor. So that is that's what you're looking at there. So let's see what else is on the board this morning before we go. Well, Abby, I do. I'm taking over for the Hoff on Saturday, so I will be doing the Inside the A segment. So I'll be coming to visit the tailgate and doing more things than I traditionally do. Whitecaps winning back-to-back can champs. So so I will be at the tailgate. I will be in the New Gulch, looking at the celebration, and we're going to have bit of a story on that as a part of the Inside the A package that'll air on the Halo board at halftime. So, yeah, we went extra time, but that's what happens when there's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on. So, I don't know, Ricky. I mean, I know that my day is going to start at Reverb. Then I go from there. Probably, let's see. So, might be like at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I think, Ricky, because I'm trying to plot my day here. Hard Rock Reverb, 1 o'clock, 1 to 2. I've got to go inside the tape, inside the A, and those kinds of things. Then I have to do the story at, I've got to do the segment at the team store, and then we go to the tailgate. So it's like 5 o'clock, maybe, something like that. So 5 o'clock would probably be when I'll in that neighborhood. Unless I see you at Reverb at 1, it's probably like 5 o'clock at the tailgate. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. Trying to see if there's any other gossip, rumor, or innuendo before we go. Arsenal stepped up their £92 million transfer pursuit of Declan Rice. The women's £122 million World Cup prize money paid directly to players. Good stuff there. Spurs will need an excess of £50 million to sign James Maddison. Todd Bowley Bowley and Clear Lake have told fans that we will make you proud. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Transfers, everything. Keeping an eye on it. So, and stupidity. So, yes, we have incredible stupidity. Once again, no real surprise that stupidity down here continues to be what it is. But back at it tomorrow. Let's see. Later today, we'll have more high school interviews, and we're going to release that stuff on the weekend. So it's really cool stuff for in-session off-season. Catching up with, you'll hear more of the Star Stripes and soccer interviews and get you ready for all of that. So, yeah, a lot of high school content being released on the weekend, and we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow. And it'll be 9:05 normal, 9:30, hopefully, our friends from Beyond Goals. It looked like Greg Garza was on a plane. So we'll see what happens there. 10 o'clock weekend whipper on patent pending trademark coming. Hopefully get a visit from Jason if he is recovered from flying back from the West Coast. We'll go over all the action, getting you ready for the weekend, including Atlanta and D.C. The NPSL Southeast Conference show is also going to be released on Friday afternoon. And you've also got Atlanta United 2, Philadelphia Union 2 on Friday night here on the network. Pre-game, 6:45, I think, and the kick is a little after 7 o'clock. So you'll get the game right there from Chester, Pennsylvania. I'll have your pregame. Jason will have the match for you, and it'll be here on the SDH network. So busy stuff, as always, and thanks to all of y'all for hanging out as you always do. And please go back and get your naps in after a late night where it was MLS After Dark. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks again to Niko for hanging out with us. Played safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. Mucha Platiel will catch up with y'all 9:05 tomorrow morning.